on the corner, and then it's going to Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Women That Shred. I feel as though I haven't done this in a while because last week I had pre-recorded. Something was going on with StreamYard, and then I think I was like on vacay for a week or two in Virginia. So it's nice to be back, and it's nice to be back to have a guest like actually right next to me. I can touch her. So I have Janice Chernitzky. I knew I was going to mess it up on the live. Every time I say it correctly, and then I knew I was going to mess it up. Sorry.
It's okay.
Janice. So Janice is one of our partners here at NAF. So that's why I was like, come on in. So this is pretty cool. And I like to, just get right into it because we only have a half hour and it goes by really quickly.
I'll be surprised.
Yeah. So the thing about Janice, which I think is really interesting, is that I've actually been in the mortgage industry longer than you, which is weird because I feel like I'm still a newbie and I've been in it for like 8 years, almost 9 years. But you're what, 5 years?
4.5.
4.5.
Yeah.
Okay. So 4.5 years in the mortgage industry, and you were doing something completely different before.
Oh, yeah.
So I was hoping, I know you can't go into specifics
right.
for certain things,
yeah.
but I was hoping you can kind of give us a background as to like what you were doing and how do you end up here?
That's a really good question. Yeah. And yeah, we kind of went through this. So basically I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So we're, business owners. We like the hustle. And I started off with some, a project that was taking off. It was going quite well. Of course, it takes time to build a business. It was a very fun business. It had nothing to do with mortgages, numbers. This was
the boring stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, I want to do something fun that's going to make me money, right? And long story short, that kind of came to a halt, right? And
weren't you on Shark Tank?
It was similar to Shark Tank.
Okay, but kind of.
I was, okay. Yeah, I was the same producer, Mark Barnett.
Okay.
So I was on a show, and I don't even know if I can disclose it.
Right,
it's just so
but
crazy.
I just know you were on a show.
There's so many rules about things but yeah, I was on a show. It was awesome, and anyway, things went south for trademark reasons for a name, and anyway, it's okay because I actually ended up finding something that I absolutely love to do, and I became pretty good at it.
I was gonna say you're really good at it. Don't be modest.
I'm awesome. No,
yes, you are.
I had great teachers too, and I have a great mentor who, it was kind of a sink or swim situation. It was like, you have the it factor. I'm like, what is the it factor? They're like, the sales factor. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's a factor. Yeah. Not everyone has it.
I had no idea. I'm friendly and I like to help people, and that combination. And I'm also pretty creative. So that's something that you have to know with mortgages. You have to be creative.
Yeah. And she's on the non-QM side. So speaking of creative, like that is the epitome of like creative.
Yeah.
Like the creativity on the non-QM side is important.
Every single file is different. Yeah. Every single borrower is going to have a different situation. So, long story short, fast forward, when that business, I had to, shut it down. I was just like, well, now what?
Now what? Exactly.
Now what? And plus you're kind of crushed, like, a business you've been building for almost 5 years, and then you have to just stop.
Well, let me ask you this, because you said, you're crushed, and that's the thing is a lot of times, I tried my own business and it just didn't work. And I kind of bounced back and I was like, all right, I guess go back into the corporate world. And that's how I ended up at NAF. But like for you, did it take a period of time for you to kind of like mourn that loss and to get back into it? Or were you kind of like, all right, let's just keep going? Because I feel like everybody has their own way of dealing with those type of situations. So how did you manage?
Yeah, well, it was a slow, painful death. It's kind of like you get rejected by someone, you like don't want to really like admit to it, like
gotcha. You're
but
like in denial.
You're a little bit in denial. You still aren't really sure what's going to happen, so you're still kind of fighting. But I would say And all in all, a kind of a smooth transition.
Okay.
Kind of, obviously not perfect, but yeah, there was no time for mourning. It was kind of like, okay, if this, not this, then what? And starting another business just didn't seem like something I was motivated to do, because kind of like what you said, you went into corporate. I fought tooth and nail not to go into corporate.
Well, I fought tooth and nail not to come back into the mortgage industry, and here I am.
Yeah, it just kind of sucks you in.
Yeah,
right?
it does.
I never imagined that, and it was like, when I remember when I started learning everything, and then I started getting loans. I was like, why are people taking the weekend off?
Yeah.
I was like,
well, how did you even end up in the industry? I'm assuming it's someone you knew that was working here, because that's how I ended up. It was someone a friend of mine, and I just got.
So my amazing brother, he used to work at Accredited Home Lenders.
Okay.
And who are the same founders of Lensure, where I work now.
Okay.
And he stayed friends with a lot of people who work there, and introduced me to my hiring manager. Okay. So he was just like, look, I really think you'd be good at this. I'm like, you're crazy, but of course, older brother who I admire, and he was like, give this a try, Janice. Just give it a try. So there I was, and he's teaching me things like at a Starbucks. He's like, okay, you're going to go to your interview. And exactly.
We should get
and I was like, oh, kill me now. Like, I don't know about this. And, full disclosure, it was something so new that I just didn't know if I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And the idea of being in an office, was suffocating to me, because I was selling a beach product. So I was like,
you're like, I need to be in the sun 24/7.
Yeah. Like, I need happy, sand and sun. But the more I learned, the more it was actually like, wow, like, this is really interesting. And you start seeing all these different scenarios. Like I said, every borrower is different. And it just gets your creative mind going, right? Oh, I could do this with this loan. And like I said, I focus on non-QM loans. If anybody watching doesn't know what non-QM, it's non-conventional mortgages. So it's not your Fannie Freddie cookie cutter loans that either fits or it doesn't fit the guidelines. This is hybrid documentation, mixed things. You're just like trying to see if it makes sense, right? If it can meet the ability to repay, right? When they taught me ATR, I was like, what is that? I had a little notebook where you're like LTV, loan to value. And I'm like, memorize that. It was like learning another language.
Yeah. Well, it's still like that. I don't know. A lot of people got to see the little series that I did of like, don't speak mortgage to your clients. And we were making fun of like LTV and all the terms, because it really is so confusing. And I'm assuming in your world, it's even more confusing.
It can be, or it's the same kind of confusing, right? Where you're right, you have to learn. And I try and remember, it's not that long ago, 4.5 years seems like a long time, but I didn't know anything. So when you go back and you start, I get loan officers that are new. They're my clients, and go, I've never done a non-QM loan. And I'm like, I was new once too. Don't worry about it. I can teach you.
Yeah. See, I was new once too. Like, I think that relates across the board, because, we talk about that just in different industries. Like, when someone comes in and they're new, it's like someone has to give it, they have to, give them a chance. I'm always like, just give them a chance, because they're new. You had to start somewhere, right? So it's like, it's so important, I think, for everyone, just in general, that like, if someone's new in something, like, give them that chance, because you just never know. Just because they're new doesn't mean they're not knowledgeable or they're not good at what they, it's just that experience. And so that was just a little side note of like a learning lesson.
It's true though. And it can change someone's life.
It can.
I still remember I had 2 loans at the same time, like my first 2 loans ever, right? And it was 2 amazing people who gave me a chance. That's really what it comes down to it. And I was honest. I think I was just like, you know what?
Transparency.
I'm new, but I have a team of people with like 30 years experience behind me. So don't worry, I won't let your loan die. And that disclosure, transparency, it's honesty. There were some people who weren't as nice, but I'm not going to name names, but I still remember, I still work with these people. They still send me files. They're proud of me. I'm like, thank you for the opportunity. And I remember one of these women, her words stuck with me, and I think kind of goes with dealing with the turn down, with this cycle, right? This mortgage cycle, it's crazy. She said, Janice, I was new also. Once upon a time, she told me her story. She had now been in the mortgage industry at least 15 years. Married a realtor, and she was coming out of like a very bad marriage. Like there's all these stories, but she said, this industry has ups and downs. Save your money. Boom. Like that. I've always been kind of a saver, but I never had that much money to save before. Right. And this really, I was just like, yeah, I will do that. And I'll tell you something, I don't regret it, especially with the market we're facing right now.
Yeah, because unfortunately, I know I'm seeing a lot of loan officers that during COVID, we all talk about how loans were literally falling on people's laps. Like it was like the sky is falling like Chicken Little, but like it was like a good thing.
Yeah.
And you see like they were spending it on just, exorbitant things and then once, COVID ended, the trips and the cars and all this stuff. And then now they're like freaking out because they didn't save anything. I mean, obviously, like if you can spend some of it and, enjoy it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like you earned it and all of those things. But I think we don't talk enough about like saving at those times because, people get so excited. They're like, oh my gosh, look at all this money.
And it is exciting. And you're right. Loans, I think, and one of our head managers would tell all of us, you're at the right place at the right time. And that didn't mean a lot to me because I was new.
Yeah, because if you said you were 4.5 years and COVID was 3 years ago already, geez. So you were already in it, like only in it for like a year or so.
I was,
and then suddenly like everybody's doing well.
Yeah, I was. So started in 2019, February 2019. And
okay. So just a year before.
And it was like 3-4 months of like intensive training, right? Here I am with my little notebook. What is DTI? And I'd be like, well, my DTI would be pretty bad right now. Yeah. But after that, with COVID, a lot of non-QM lenders, including where I work, paused lending for a few weeks. Yeah.
Well, and then non-QM got hit badly because then that's when they basically were like,
they stopped.
Right? Like,
it was, and so investors were like, hold on.
Yeah, let's figure this out.
The sky really is falling, and it's not loans anymore, right? They're like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So, that shutdown in March, shortly after there was an announcement, it was like, we don't know what's going to happen, and we have to pause this.
Yeah.
And some people were like, oh. Yeah. Right. The company didn't know what to do. Some companies shut down for longer. I think I work with people that are so intelligent, they're so conservative that they really took care of their people.
Yeah.
Right. And I felt very fortunate that after being there 1 year, they still held on to me.
Well, they saw the potential. That's what's important, right? Like I feel like a lot of times those companies, they'll go ahead and let go the ones that are newbies, the ones that don't have that experience, because they assume like, okay, what can they offer? What can they bring? Because we already have experienced employees. But that says a lot about your company that they saw something in you and said, okay, it might not be okay right now, but she's going to be someone that we're going to really need in the future. So that's good that they at least had that insight.
Yes, I appreciate it. And from then it was just up, right? Yeah. Once we reopened, and I think we were one of the ones that closed for the shortest period of time, thankfully. But gosh, I wish it wasn't like COVID and everybody was like hiding their house, because that would have been like vacation.
Yeah.
Right? But it was like, oh no, and you just don't know how to deal with these things. Everybody's different. But yeah, it took off, and really I started helping my loan officers more and more and more, where I wasn't having to advertise. I was getting referrals. And I didn't know how this happened. I'll be honest. I really don't. It just, I think customer service is really important for me.
I think it's important just in general. I think if you treat people with kindness, respect, and you treat them well and you help them, like I think no matter what, it's going to be a good outcome.
Yes. Yeah, right. And honesty, like we were saying, the transparency, I hear things all the time like, oh, well, so-and-so told me we can get it, this type of loan done. And I'd be like, oh, I didn't know that existed. Right.
You're like,
that's unheard of.
You're like, let me go with my notebook.
and lo and behold, it ends up coming back to me. They were lied to. They couldn't get that done. And then I'm like, okay, are you ready now to rock and roll? I'm going to structure it this way. I know we can get it done. And then we move forward.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah. So then for you, obviously, like you came in, then suddenly COVID hits, and then now we're in a downturn. So for you, like, how have you been able to manage? Because, you might be someone that's like, okay, you know what, I'm out. Like, I can't even deal with this, right? But it sounds like you're persevering, and you're like, you love what you do so much that you're like, okay, I'm going to deal with this downturn, and I'm just going to push through it. So, like, how are you managing to do that? Because I know that everybody has a different mindset when it comes to this. So I'm just curious, like, what your mindset is, because it could help others.
Yeah. Well, I would say that I love helping others. So, if this, helps you, I'm happy. I think it's about not giving up. We have to look at everything as an opportunity versus a challenge. Yeah, of course, things have slowed down. Loans are harder to approve because, like, no joke, you're starting to see real weird stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm used to weird stuff. No, like, it's weirder. Right?
And you're like, it's getting weird, people.
It is getting very weird. And, and there was, a time where we were like really halting. Loan to values were being a little bit cut. One of our most amazing products, which is still amazing, it got a little bit cut back a little bit, where it's like when we can finance broker comp and buy downs. And we used to be able to do that to a higher loan to value. So all those things slow you down, and you're just kind of like, my mojo, like, oh no, what do I do? And I said, well, I have to find the opportunity. This is a people business. And in the end, one of the things that I was like, well, I'm going to start visiting my people. What can I do that I couldn't do during all the COVID shutdowns? Now, obviously, not as many people are going back to the office. Go back to your office. Right? I know working from PJs is, real fun, but trust me, also, like, having this human interaction, it's amazing. Yeah. It really, it brings you back. And so that's what I've tried to do as well. Okay, if things are slower to an extent or more complicated, well, go see where you can help the people that they're your clients. Loan officers are my clients, right? So I can stop by here at New American Funding and be like, hey, what's up?
And I mean, speaking of being creative, like, what's really cool is that she had stopped by here just a couple weeks ago, and that's when I already knew I wanted her on the show, but I was like, you know what, you should come in and be right next to me. And then I had her do a reel. We were honoring one of my coworkers, my colleagues, who was in the top 1%. So we did this really fun reel, and she was so good, and it did really well. But, like, that's what's really cool, is that you are like, hey, whatever I can help, if it's doing a reel, like, I'm gonna have her do a reel with me after this, because I mean, sometimes I'm like, I hate when it's just me. I need a partner in crime, but like, it sounds kind of silly, but at the same time, like, guess what? She sticks out. She stands out. I don't originate loans, but knowing that she's that type of person, that she's willing to kind of do what she needs to do, like, that says a lot. And so I think it's really important. Like, if you haven't been in the office, like, she came in and she did a little lunch and learn. There weren't very many of us, but it didn't matter. Once again, like, if you could just go ahead and educate several of our loan officers on certain things, then that's great. But yeah, if you're able to go into an office and do something, or just go in there and just be like, hey, can I help you guys with anything? You'd be surprised. Maybe they'll drag you into doing a reel too.
Exactly.
A social media post. Yeah. But I think that's really important right now. Like, just kind of, hey, whatever it takes, like, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I do marketing, social media, and this is like when it's needed the most.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't busy. So guess what? Utilize this time to put yourself out there, to kind of
build your online presence.
Yes, build on your online presence, nurture those relationships, because you have the time to do it now, because once it's ebb and flow. So when it comes to a point where it's really busy, guess what? You're like, shoot, I don't have the time to visit. I don't have the time to do any of that. But you'll have already established, like, such a presence that it won't really matter that you're kind of out of sight in that moment. And I think that's where, like, a lot of people kind of miss out on, is that like, this is the time to do all the stuff that maybe you were not comfortable with doing, like being online.
Making the time for other things that you weren't used to. Especially, look, all the loan officers who are listening to this, if you before couldn't maybe even give the time of day to, for example, a non-QM rep. Me, you want to give me the time of day. But when I see it more and more, I get these calls and I hear it. I have never done a non-QM loan. And I think, oh my God, why not? right? Instead of turning down a loan, find a solution for it.
Yeah.
So right now you might be finding people who, had to close hard money, and now you can refinance them into a lower rate.
Yes, but make sure you quotes on that.
Quote, right? But it's still going to help them,
Yeah.
right? You can be more creative and look for contacts like CPAs who are going to have a lot of people who are self-employed and can do bank statement loans. You're going to start finding these niche products, and I'm always happy to educate anybody. Like you said, I'll go in and do a webinar or actually lunch and learn. I'm so used to the webinar, right? People like, don't come in.
Yeah.
You could have COVID. Like, I swear I don't. But
yeah.
But of course, I get it. But this is the time to actually go, okay, where can I think outside this box that I was used to?
Mm-hmm.
And that includes like me too. It's like, well, I'm used to my non-QM loans, but where else can I help my people? And that would be, hey, shooting a reel.
Mm-hmm. Or doing this show with me. Like, a lot of people, this is kind of super out of their comfort zone too, but they see the value in doing something like this to put yourself out there, because there might be someone listening that's not even in the industry, but guess what? They're looking to buy a home.
Yeah.
And they thought, oh, you know what? My situation is probably so out there that there's no way that someone would be able to help me. Well, that's what she's here for. That's what non-QM is all about, is outside of the box, not your, kind of normal conventional loan. And that's really important, especially right now. Cause I think, I don't know. It's just like, it's this weird thing, and it's hard to explain because I'm not an originator. Yeah, I had my license and I've been in for 8 years, but it is this kind of weird, like eerie feeling right now. I don't know what it is, why, but and I think a lot has to do with just educating too.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's like a Teams meeting thing in the background. My computer's like ding ding.
I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's my work Teams.
Normal.
But I feel like this is the time when it's the opportunity to educate people, because I think people are kind of like, this is so weird. Like, what are we supposed to believe? Like, people say, people still say like, oh, the rates are still amazing compared to like the 1900s. It's like, yes, it might be. But remember, people also saw what happened several years ago where the rates were really low. So it's like, it's that whole like human behavior psychology, if you will, as well, like where you have to really kind of like understand, like, what is it that the people need right now? And I personally believe that they need to be more educated, like in what it's all about in the home buying process. Like, people are still confused. People still think you need 20% down. People still think you need a certain credit score. We were talking about, what's your opinion on like Gen Z? Because, Gen Z right now, like, they're just not buying.
Yeah.
And they're still really confused too. So like, do you have any advice on anybody like dealing with Gen Z?
Gosh, I don't know. That's like a foreign land.
Yeah, well, that's why I was just curious, because you're like kind of in a different world. So I don't know if you guys even try to maybe even market to the Gen Z in a way that maybe, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what's kind of funny, and we start seeing it a little bit more, and it's still, and it is new, even for a non-QM lender that sees weird stuff, will be like income from like influencers.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So you start seeing that and you go, really? They're making all that money? And it's almost like, how do you piece that together? How do you trust that this will continue?
Right.
And you have to kind of see like, well, this is a new world. This is how people are making an income.
Yeah.
Why exclude them from getting a mortgage?
Yeah, you're right. I just thought about that, where like influencers, they're making money, they're getting checks from YouTube, from other social media platforms. So I would think that even the way the income comes in and the way they do their taxes is probably, it's like a business, right? So, and like a little bit different. So that makes sense that like even Gen Z, they're going to have to be creative with the way that, because a lot of them probably have like 10 million side hustles too, all at once.
Well, it's that gig economy, right? So we could look at it through like the eyes of like a bank statement loan versus tax returns or 1099s or different. There's hybrid situations where they might have a full-time W-2 job but also have a side hustle.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And maybe they're deducting it from their business and it's not working on the tax return. So you have to look at it from a different angle. Yeah. But I would say the younger generations, we have to look at historically, real estate's a way to build wealth.
Right.
will wealth.
And will wealth. You can will it.
Yeah, I'm willing to be wealthy. But yes, so it is a way to build wealth. And so I would say they shouldn't, I see posts all the time like, should have bought a house in, 2007 when I was in kindergarten, or holy, I feel their pain. I'm experiencing part of their pain because I was kind of a late bloomer in this industry. So you didn't really see that benefit, because if you're not in it and you're not like wanting to learn, like you said, knowledge is going to be really important. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Right. Get familiar with it. And if you can't buy in, for example, a state like California,
we're in San Diego,
where medium house prices are.
The reason why I live with my mother.
Yeah, you know what? That's a Latina thing.
Yes. Yeah. We'll go ahead and base it on that. Yeah. I can afford to live here, but I just rather live with my mom because I'm a Latina.
Exactly, and home cooking, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean those challenges. Well, maybe they want to become investors in a state where they can buy, real estate that's not going to be in the $800,000-$900,000 $1 range, and start somewhere. And there are still states out there that you can get that. Start with investment properties.
Yeah.
Why do we have to do things the way everybody else did them? Yeah. Right? I mean, right now it's just think outside the box and maybe build your wealth that way. And then that can get you into your dream single family residence in San Diego.
Yeah.
Or, for example, I was seeing this kind of trend of buying a duplex, living in one, renting the other.
Oh, okay.
Right? To build that wealth. Like there's a lot of creative solutions, not just for Gen Z, but for anybody who's like, well, now what? I should have bought, 10 years ago.
Well, that's the thing. It's like shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's like instead of like
thinking what are we going to say 10 years from now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and I had this conversation with my cousin yesterday. My cousin, she actually has a lot of investment properties in Arizona. And she was like, listen, when I bought them 10 years ago with my husband, she's like, we struggled to buy them. We like did the minimum, everything. She goes, now we look back and we're like, oh my gosh. So just imagine 10 years from now, if you did the same thing now, where you're kind of like, it's a little bit tight. Obviously, you would never want to put someone in a situation where, I mean, the struggle is so bad that they end up losing their home, or it's so tight and they basically have to like not eat and starve themselves because they can't afford food because they're paying a mortgage, right? Like I feel like every situation obviously is different. But if it's manageable and it's a little bit tough right now, but it's going to be alleviated a little bit, like look into that. Like we need to think long-term when it comes to real estate.
Yeah. And I think that I'm glad you touched upon that point, because when I was saying the ATR, the ability to repay, I say it's always important to work with a loan officer that's going to be also, thinking about your well-being, right?
Yeah.
The ability to repay, they're checking boxes and they're really looking at, will this be too much of a struggle? Are you buying too much and it might not be the right choice? That's sometimes why a loan will be turned down, or like you'll get a counter offer and be like, look, that $1 million house, maybe not, but how about 750? Yeah. Right? And because they're checking a lot of things. And I find that to be incredible. And I really admire that about how we underwrite loans.
Yeah.
Because it does check on that, because they don't want people defaulting.
Right. Yeah. And I think people, a lot of times the client forgets that, they just think that we're being like really hard and we're like, being difficult. And
no, for you.
Yeah. Like, why are you asking me all these questions? Like, I get that, but they're doing it for a reason, and they're doing it to make sure that you're going to be okay. Like, that's what's really important. Yeah. I think it kind of sometimes gets forgotten.
It does. Well, can you blame somebody when they fall in love with a house and they want it so badly?
I know.
But then you're like, are you sure? Because, you won't be able to eat.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like this beautiful kitchen, guess what? In the fridge, it's going to be empty. It's going to look pretty, but so, I mean, that's just really important. But yeah, once again, there's so many different aspects to it, so many different layers that I think just the more we talk about it, the more we educate, the more we're like transparent about it. Like it's going to be really important just in the long run anyways. But yeah, for now, I know a lot of people in this industry are struggling to get business, but for those that really are passionate about it, they're going to stick through it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you really get tested, right? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what's the reason behind it? What's my why? so yeah, I think that's when you can kind of really like self-reflection at these points of like, okay, what's the true reason why I'm doing it?
Right. I mean, it's all fun and games when it's easy, right? Yeah. But when it's a challenge, I think it helps you grow as a person. Yeah. But in the end, it comes down to, why not find a solution to this slowdown? Get creative. Start doing reels with you. Right? Yeah. Make those extra phone calls that maybe before you didn't have to make, or think outside the box. Loan officers who never did a non-conventional loan, start trying, right? Yeah. Give it the time of day, because those clients that you help out that think they cannot qualify because somebody told them they couldn't, they're going to be your loyal client once you help them. Yeah. Right. No,
that's great advice, and that's like perfect, because you just did little bullet points of what people can do, and we're already at the 30-minute mark. So that was really great, really informative, a lot of insight. So how can people reach out to you if they need to, if they have any more questions?
So that's a great question. I would say if you have a loan officer, I definitely reach out to your loan officer, because I work directly with loan officers, but I'm always happy to refer one to you. My email is long and complicated.
Well, yeah, we can. Well, you're on social media, right?
I'm on social media,
LinkedIn, Facebook.
Yep, Janice Chernitzky. You can write me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and I will be able to help you. We'll connect, and yeah, I'm here to help. So happy to be here too. So
yay! Yeah. And I got to be right next to her. All right. Well, we are actually going to go do a reel. No joke. All right. Thank you, Del, for putting up her profiles up there. Thanks for those that are live. Christina, who always pops in, love you, girl. And anybody in the replay. And, just thanks for tuning in and supporting. And we'll see you next Wednesday, I think. I think I'm going to be in Colorado. We'll figure it out. I'm going to be in Denver for LinkedIn. All right. Okay. See all of you. Oh my gosh. I've been talking so much this week. It's been crazy. But yes, thank you, everyone. And we'll see you soon.